Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, a long time ago, Moses was the leader of some slaves that were really unhappy. They wanted to leave Egypt. Moses decided to ask the Pharaoh to free the slaves, and this is what happened. So Moses went to the boss Pharaoh and said, "Let my people go!" And the Pharaoh said,
"Let them go? I still need them to build the pyramids for me."
Moses told Pharaoh that if he didn't let the slaves go, it was going to get really bad for the Egyptians. Pharaoh didn't listen. Moses tried again.
"Let my people go!"
Again, the Pharaoh said,
"No way, dude."
What Pharaoh didn't really get was that God was on Moses' side. So the first thing God did to Pharaoh when he didn't free the slaves was turn all the water into blood.
Boy, am I thirsty. Ah, blood!
You'd think that would have convinced Pharaoh to let the slaves go, but he was a stubborn guy. When Moses went to ask for freedom again,
"Let my people go!"
Pharaoh said,
No.
Since the water to blood thing didn't work, God tried frogs. Lots and lots of frogs.
Ribbit. Huh? Ribbit. Huh? Huh? Frogs.
After that, Moses asked Pharaoh again to set his people free.
"Let my people go!"
But Pharaoh still said,
"No way, dude."
Since a flood of frogs didn't really frighten Pharaoh, God decided to send a swarm of gnats and a load of lice. He hoped that would give Pharaoh an itching to set Moses and his people free.
Gnat!
Moses went to Pharaoh once again. He hated to keep bugging Pharaoh, but he and the slaves really wanted to bug out of Egypt. So he asked again.
"Let my people go!"
But Pharaoh still said,
"Forget it."
bugs seemed to bother Pharaoh more than frogs. So God tried frightening Pharaoh with a frightfully large load of flies.
Ah, flies! I hate these flies! Too many flies!
Did it work? Moses went to see. He asked again.
"Let my people go!"
But Pharaoh still said,
"Watch out for me. I'm gonna punch you in the face."
what could be worse than drinking blood, having frogs flood your yard, and being swarmed with gnats and flies and lice? Moses wasn't sure, but he knew God wouldn't abandon him and that God had a plan. Next thing he knew, God had made all the livestock in Egypt crazy.
Moo! 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 I like this moo! Moo! I like this moo! Moo! I like this moo! Moo! You like this moo!
Moses went to check on Pharaoh and asked once again.
"Let my people go!"
Pharaoh seemed a little woozy after dealing with those crazy animals, but he held it together and still wouldn't free the slaves.
Fix the palace.
Moses asked God to try again. This time it got personal. Turns out, Pharaoh was vain and loved his baby soft skin. God thought a couple of well-placed boils would help convince Pharaoh to let the slaves go.
Boil.
Okay.
Boils.
The boils were pretty convincing, but when Moses came back to ask again,
"Let my people go!"
Pharaoh's builder had just thought to add a jacuzzi to the new pyramid. Pharaoh really wanted a jacuzzi, so he decided to keep the slaves around for a bit longer.
Now.
When Moses heard this, he knew God would have a plan. The next day, a storm blew in. It was big. It was bad. It had hail the size of baseballs. Ooh, and it'd do some damage.
Heel hurts.
Moses asked again,
"Let my people go!"
but Pharaoh still said,
Now.
natural disasters seemed to be less frightening to Pharaoh than insects. So God went back to bugs and sent locusts to Egypt, hoping that if they destroyed all the crops, Pharaoh would give up.
Locusts! Locusts!
After the locusts left, Moses went over to the Pharaoh's house to see if he'd freed the slaves. Pharaoh was looking pretty beat up, but despite the blood, the bugs, the hail, and the crazed cattle, and complete lack of food, Pharaoh just couldn't let go of his free labor. Moses demanded that Pharaoh let the slaves go.
Let my Pharaoh go!
Pharaoh said,
No.
God knew that Pharaoh still slept with a night lamp and was very afraid of the dark. So the next thing God did to punish Pharaoh was to turn off the lights. I mean, really turn off the lights. It was dark for 3 straight days. No light at all.
I'm afraid of the dark. Oh, my blanket.
Pharaoh was really scared of seeing in all that dark. But when the lights came back on, Pharaoh forgot how frightened he had been. And when Moses demanded to be freed,
Let my Pharaoh go!
Pharaoh still said,
No.
So now, God was tired of being a nice guy and decided to really punish Pharaoh. He told Moses what he was going to do. Moses told the other slaves and they were ready when God's final plague came. God decided to kill the firstborn in every home that didn't have red painted around the door. The plague swept through and the people were dropping like flies. I thought it was soccer practice.
Stop! Hey, what happened to Ian?
Death is the firstborn.
Pharaoh's own son even bit the dust. This finally did the trick. Pharaoh gave up and let Moses and the slaves go.
Fine, I'll let you people go. Get out of here.
The end.